It was 3 a.m. when police knocked on the door of a quiet Houston apartment. Inside, Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel thought the nightmare was over. They believed their problems had been taken care of. But when Valerie opened the door, she didn't find peace. She found handcuffs. 2 people were missing. 2 lives were supposedly gone. And now, the couple at the center of it all had to face the truth. What they didn't know? Everything had been a setup. This story is about lies, control, and a plan that went too far, and how, in the end, it all came crashing down. If you're a fan of true crime and criminal investigations, you won't want to miss our new book, The Ultimate Book of Serial Killers: 180 Files of the World's Most Notorious Murderers, now available on Amazon. You can also purchase the PDF version directly from our website for instant download. You'll find the link in the video description and in a pinned comment. Now, let's dive into today's case. Leon Jacob had long dreamed of wearing a white coat, of saving lives. But the reality was far darker. His medical career was a trail of unfinished residencies, disciplinary actions, and professional failure. His personal life fared no better. Leon married Annie Jacob in 2001. She was ambitious, intelligent, and full of hope. But behind closed doors, their life was turbulent. The couple moved to New York to pursue their respective careers, Annie in law, Leon in medicine. But what should have been a time of growth quickly turned to fear. Verbal abuse turned physical. Bruises were hidden. Threats were whispered. And by the time their second son was born, Annie was living in constant fear. Leon's rage knew no limits. He drank excessively, gambled recklessly, and controlled Annie with psychological warfare and terrifying threats. One day, during a violent argument, he pulled a knife on her, in front of their child. Another time, he locked Annie and their baby in a room, telling her that the only way out was in a plastic bag. She finally broke the silence. With help from her parents, Annie fled with her children to Chicago. But Leon didn't stop. He stalked her family, and raged against the court system that granted Annie custody. When he could no longer control her, he turned his focus elsewhere. That's when he met Megan Verikas. She worked at a hotel in Pittsburgh where Leon had relocated for yet another residency, his 6th. Like the others, it didn't last. His combative attitude towards staff and disregard for patient safety led to dismissal. Still, Megan was charmed, at first. They moved to Houston together in late 2014, hoping for a fresh start. But Leon hadn't changed. By 2017, their relationship had collapsed into threats, harassment, and fear. Megan endured physical violence and obsessive stalking. When she tried to leave, he followed her. When she hid, he hunted her down. When she found shelter at her workplace, he lingered outside, hiding in bushes and confronting her colleagues. He spammed her inbox with emails that alternated between desperate pleas and venomous rants. He couldn't let her go, and wouldn't take no for an answer. Megan filed for a restraining order. She also sued him for harassment and assault. Now facing criminal charges, Leon panicked. His dream of becoming a doctor was slipping away for good. He'd burned every professional bridge, and both of his ex-partners had turned to the courts for protection. But instead of taking accountability, Leon began plotting something even darker. He first turned to a family connection. During a visit to a law firm run by his parents' friends, he crossed paths with Laura Thurlow, niece of the firm's owner. Laura initially tried to mediate, attempting to convince Megan to drop the charges and reconcile. Megan refused. That's when Leon's thinking turned dark. He believed Laura might know someone shady, perhaps a former client, who could make Megan vanish. But when Laura sensed his intentions, she immediately distanced herself. Leon didn't take the rejection well. He bombarded Laura with messages and harassed her at work. Laura felt unsafe but never called the police. Instead, she reached out to her friend Kenneth, hoping he could intervene. Leon didn't back off. A month passed with no change. Then, when Laura called Kenneth again, a stranger answered, his friend Zach. Kenneth had died unexpectedly. Zach, a former soldier, said he was aware of the situation and offered to help. That new connection would soon change everything. Meanwhile, Leon's personal life took a surprising turn. He began dating Valerie McDaniel, a respected Houston veterinarian and neighbor to his mother. Valerie, known for her kindness and deep love for animals, had built a successful career. She had owned the Montrose Veterinary Clinic since 2000, but her personal life had been riddled with betrayal. She had once been happily married to Mac, a man she met in college. They adopted a baby girl in 2008 after struggling with infertility. But their family life collapsed when a woman called Valerie out of the blue, claiming to be Mac's mistress and exposing years of infidelity. Though Mac begged for forgiveness, the cheating continued. Valerie finally filed for divorce in 2014, finalizing it in 2016 after a costly legal battle that forced her to buy out Mac's share of their clinic for over $1 million. Now single and raising a daughter, Valerie moved into an upscale Houston neighborhood. That's where she met Leon. He was charming, attractive, and confident. Valerie, 48 and longing for stability, found herself drawn to him, despite the red flags. Leon was 8 years her junior and carried the title of Doctor. Within a short time, he moved into her home. But not everyone was thrilled by the new romance. Friends warned Valerie about Leon's arrogance. Her ex-husband Mac became increasingly concerned, especially after learning about Leon's recent arrest for assault. With their daughter now spending time at Valerie's home, Mac feared for her safety. The issue caused tension between the co-parents. Valerie had promised her ex-husband Mac that Leon would not be around when their daughter was visiting. But the promise didn't last. Leon remained in Valerie's life and in her home, ignoring every warning sign and boundary. And in the background, his desperation grew. That's when Zach called. Leon saw an opportunity. Zach, a self-described former soldier, seemed like the perfect person to carry out what Leon called a solution. He wanted Megan gone before the trial. If she wouldn't leave the state willingly, preferably back to Pittsburgh, then something more permanent would have to be done. Leon didn't hesitate. He offered Zach money and handed him a $2,500 down payment during a meeting in early February. But Zach, whose real name was Moataz Ays, never planned to hurt anyone. He saw a chance to stop a potential tragedy and decided to deceive Leon instead. He told Leon the job was done. Megan, he claimed, had been taken and convinced not to testify. Leon wanted to speak to her, but Zach cautioned against it, saying she was emotionally unstable. Satisfied, for the moment, Leon backed off. Until Megan showed up at court. Leon exploded with rage. Zach feigned ignorance. To keep the lie going, he spun a new story. This time, it involved staging a car accident and planting illegal substances to destroy Megan's reputation before the trial. Leon agreed again and kept paying, but the plan, of course, went nowhere. Zach claimed his hired team had been arrested. In truth, there was no team. There was no plot. It was all smoke and mirrors. By the time Zach disappeared, Leon had handed him a total of $9,000. When questioned later in court, Zach admitted he never contacted the police because he feared they wouldn't believe him. With a prior theft conviction and a suspended sentence on his record, he doubted his word would matter, especially against someone like Leon Jacob, who still wore the title Doctor. Frustrated and betrayed, Leon sought help elsewhere. He approached a well-known Houston city councilman and bail bondsman, Michael Kubosh. Michael had helped post bond for Zach in the past, but when Leon stormed into his office demanding Zach's phone number, the conversation took a turn. Leon was aggressive, insistent. He claimed Zach had vanished with thousands of dollars. Puzzled, Michael pressed for more information. That's when Leon revealed the chilling truth. He needed Megan gone, out of Houston, off the witness list, permanently. Michael was alarmed. He typed Leon's name into his system, and everything clicked into place. He immediately contacted the police. Authorities moved fast. They tracked down Zach, only to discover his real identity, Moataz Ays. Once in custody, Moataz told detectives he had been stringing Leon along to prevent a real crime from happening. He claimed it was all a con designed to keep Megan safe, while also earning a paycheck. But the question lingered. If he truly wanted to protect Megan, why didn't he call the police sooner? After months of manipulation, deceit, and escalating threats, Zach, whose real name was Moataz Ays, finally turned to law enforcement. He agreed to cooperate with detectives in a high-stakes undercover operation designed to catch Leon Jacob in the act. The objective? Secure recorded proof of Leon ordering a hit. Detective Javier Peña was chosen to pose as the hitman. On a wiretapped call, Zach told Leon he wasn't the right man for the job, but had someone else who could handle it. Leon didn't hesitate. In fact, he had more than Megan in mind now. He asked if Javier could handle two targets. The second, Valerie McDaniel's ex-husband, Mac. Both Leon and Valerie agreed. Mac had to go. On March 8, 2017, the four conspirators, Leon, Valerie, Zach, and undercover officer Javier, met at an Olive Garden restaurant. It was supposed to be a planning session. In reality, every word was being recorded. Leon outlined his preferences. Killing Megan wasn't the ideal outcome, he said. He just wanted her gone, out of Houston and too afraid to testify. But if she wouldn't run, he was open to drastic measures. He even described a method, injecting her with a substance to mimic a heart attack. Valerie, sitting beside him, didn't flinch. Instead, she provided Mac's location. Her suggestion? Hijack his car with him inside, then stage a robbery gone wrong. She was afraid Mac would try to gain full custody of their daughter. What they didn't know was that their intended victims were already in on the operation. 2 weeks before the meeting, police had contacted Megan and warned her that her life was in danger. She fled to her parents' home, but later agreed to return and help the investigation. Mac received the same warning and the same request. Together, they became actors in their own crime scene. The police staged photos to sell the illusion. Megan bound and gagged, eyes wide in fear. Mac, with a simulated gunshot wound, slumped on the ground and in his vehicle. These images would become the final trap. On March 9th, Detective Javier presented the photos to Leon and Valerie. Mac's body appeared lifeless in the pictures. Leon studied them carefully. Valerie nodded approvingly. They both seemed satisfied. Later that same day, Javier delivered the second set. Megan, seemingly abducted and terrified. She later admitted that in that moment, tied up and surrounded by officers taking fake crime scene photos, she broke down in tears. The line between fiction and reality had grown too thin. Javier told Leon the worst. Megan had to be killed. Leon didn't argue. Then, in the early hours of March 10th, at 3 a.m., officers knocked on Valerie's door. They came bearing grim news. Megan and Mac were dead. It was a test, and Leon and Valerie failed spectacularly. They pretended to be shocked. Leon quickly claimed they had been home all night. He gave an unsolicited alibi. The detectives, fully aware of the elaborate sting, watched the performance unfold. It was over. They had the recordings. They had the photos. They had the lies. And now, they had the proof. Leon Jacob, once desperate to salvage his image, had orchestrated a plan that would destroy it forever. And Valerie McDaniel, the well-respected veterinarian, had joined him in a plot that stunned even seasoned investigators. Just hours after believing their plans had succeeded, Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel were arrested. Police told them the truth. No one had died. Mac and Megan were alive. The photos were staged. The hit never happened. Leon's disbelief quickly turned to panic. Valerie, stunned and silent, had to come face to face with Mac, who stood just outside her apartment during the arrest. She had to look into the eyes of the man she had tried to erase. Inside, their daughter had been sleeping. She was placed in Mac's care that same night. It was the last time Valerie would see her child. Both Leon and Valerie were booked into jail. Leon, facing a string of prior charges, was denied bail. Valerie, however, was released to await trial under supervision, but she would never stand in court. On March 27, 2017, just weeks after her arrest, Valerie McDaniel jumped from the 7th floor of her apartment building. She left behind a legacy of grief, confusion, and a voice memo on her iPad. In it, she apologized. She insisted she hadn't meant to hurt anyone. Despite everything, her patients and friends spoke of her with compassion. A respected veterinarian, a mother, a woman who lost herself, and everything she built. Leon was not allowed to attend her funeral. His trial began nearly a year later, in March 2018. In court, Leon's defense team attempted to shift the blame entirely onto Valerie. They painted him as a man spiraling from untreated bipolar disorder, overwhelmed by trauma and desperation. His lawyers claimed that he had long struggled with extreme mood swings, impulsivity, and disorganized thinking, symptoms consistent with a serious mental illness. They reminded the jury of his father's sudden death from a heart attack when Leon was just 13. He had been alone with him at the time and carried that guilt ever since. His mother, a lawyer herself, testified that Leon never processed that trauma and was emotionally fragile as a result. They argued he wasn't evil, just broken. But the prosecution saw it differently. They presented Leon as cold, calculating, and entitled. He hadn't just plotted a crime. He had recruited accomplices, lied with ease, paid off what he thought were hitmen, and even suggested chemical injections to stage heart attacks. He didn't react when shown images of Megan bound and gagged. He didn't protest. He approved. Megan took the stand. She described in painful detail how Leon stalked her, harassed her, and filled her life with fear. She had called the police multiple times. His ex-wife also testified, recounting threats of murder, control, and emotional terror during their marriage. She said Leon once told her that if she ever left him, no one would find her body. Leon, even after all the evidence, claimed he was innocent, that he never truly wanted anyone dead, that the police had manipulated him into sounding guilty. His team argued he only wanted to scare Megan and protect his future. But the jury didn't buy it. They deliberated for just 2 hours. Leon Jacob was convicted on 2 counts of solicitation of capital murder for trying to have both Megan and Mac killed. He was sentenced to life in prison and fined $10,000. He'll be eligible for parole in 2047. As the verdict came down, one final, chilling detail emerged. Leon once told someone that this entire ordeal would make a great movie. He even said he'd already picked the actor to play him, Bradley Cooper. But this wasn't a film. No one walked away unscathed. A child lost her mother, a community lost its trust, and 2 lives were nearly erased. All to protect the ego of a man who thought he could get away with anything. Fortunately, this time, the worst was stopped just in time. Let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more real stories that reveal the darkest corners of human behavior. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.